This tiny effect and amp modeler only cost me 130 Australian dollars. So what I really want to know is, how does it compare to my Tone Master Pro? And actually, does it even matter? To give you an idea of size, the touchscreen alone on the Fender Tone Master Pro is about 4 GP5s. Now, there's a big difference in price. As I said, this is $130 in Australia, and this is about 2,300 Australian dollars. But obviously, you're getting a lot more with the Tone Master Pro. You've got extra foot switches, a big touchscreen, lots of inputs and outs on the back, whereas this just has one tiny little screen, 2 rotary knobs on the top, 1 foot switch, and then a USB out and a 9-volt DC in. One of the biggest limitations of this pedal is just having a single foot switch. You can connect a MIDI controller to the pedal, and I think without that, it's not very useful live. That's what I think personally, because by default, the pedal just cycles up the presets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can use a different mode where it will toggle a second sort of scene, if you like, for the preset. That basically allows you to turn some effects on or off. But it's not like scenes where you can change the actual settings of those effects. It's reasonably useful. You could have a clean and a dirty tone that you just switch. You could have a tone that adds modulation effects in and out. But it's not like with a Tone Master Pro where you can either toggle individual effects or do multiple scenes where you change multiple settings at the same time. With a separate MIDI controller, you can go up and down the presets. I think that would be more useful. Then you can set up different sounds for certain songs. And then you can use this button to switch between 2 different settings within that preset. There is a company that makes a compatible MIDI controller for this pedal, and they're called M-Wave, or it looks like M-Wave, but it's M-VAVE, and their MIDI controller is called the Chocolate Plus. A lot of GP5 users have bought this controller, and they're using it on their pedal boards, and basically turns it into a much more controllable unit. But for now, I'm just going to do a comparison of the tones that I can get with this pedal and the tones that I get in the Tone Master Pro, and let's just see what happens. So I'll set up a preset on the Tone Master Pro that just has an FX loop block added using FX Loop 1, and I'll put the Tone Master Pro in the loop, and then I'll compare it to another preset that I can add sounds to and compare the difference in the amp models and the effects and things like that, and just see how it roughly compares. I don't expect the GP5 to be as good as my Tone Master Pro, obviously. But I just want to see roughly what kind of sounds we can compare. Here's another size comparison. The GP5 is roughly the same size as a TC Electronic Polytune, although the Polytune is a little bit bigger. And another comparison, the TC Electronic Shaker Mini Vibrato. Now, the most annoying thing about the GP5 is that you can only edit the presets using a mobile app, and you can't use the desktop app. That's only for managing presets in terms of importing and exporting and for updating the firmware. I don't know why. I think it would make more sense if you could do it via the desktop apps, but I mean, that's how I prefer to work usually. So pretty annoying. The problem is, as well for me, if I'm using my phone, you can't really get everything absolutely perfect because you're sort of dragging in sliders and all that kind of thing. I find it a little bit annoying. But again, this is a really cheap unit, so you might have just seen if I leave it in the edit that my guitar just fell off my strap. So this is a quick reminder to people to buy either strap locks or get some of these little safety locks. They are little tiny, look like rubber washers. They're super cheap. You can buy them on Amazon, or you can buy them from your local guitar store. They're super easy to use. They just go between the strap and the strap button, just pop them over the top, and that will hold your strap in place so that it doesn't just suddenly pop off like it did then. So there it is in place. It's kind of like when people used to use the rubber rings off the old Grolsch bottles. Same idea. So to start, I'm going to do a very simple amp model and cabinet, and I'll start adding effects after that, but I'll do the GP5 first, then I will go to the Tone Master Pro. So as I said, I've got the GP5 in the effects loop 1. That makes it easy for me to create the presets in the Tone Master Pro and switch between them. You'll only hear the GP5 when you see the FX loop 1 block on the screen. And when I switch to another preset, that will be the Tone Master Pro. Okay, so there's lots of amp models. It tells you what each model is based on. So a Tweed Deluxe, a Bassman, Twin Reverb, Vox AC30. There's heaps in here, actually. There's a really, really good selection. But I am going to go with the Twin Reverb as my amp, and I'll turn that on. And then I'm also going to choose a cab, and I will do a matching cab if there's one in here. I believe it's the Dark CS212. Or there's the Fender 65 Twin 2x12 as well. Let's go with the 65 Twin Reverb. And then I'll go back to amp and look at the settings, and we've got everything on the as default. This is how that sounds. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the Tone Master Pro, and I'm going to do the same thing. So for amps, I will go with a combo because it's already set up then. I don't have to do anything. And I will go with the Twin. So I've picked the 65 Twin Reverb amp only so that there's no reverb included as per the GP-5. And this is how this one sounds with the default settings. Now I'm recording both of these in mono. I have actually got the bright switch on. Let's turn that off. The difference between the GP-5 and the Tone Master Pro is that you cannot change the IR settings at all. So the Tone Master Pro settings might be completely different. I'm going to change these now to make them a bit more realistic. And you definitely can't add multiple mics and all that kind of thing. So you can't change the mic settings at all on the GP-5. So I've set this Fender Twin up the way I like it on the Tone Master Pro, but bright switch off. Okay, so fairly similar, but obviously we've got different settings. So the settings on here, the settings are different on the amp model in the GP-5. So I've got a gain and a volume, bass, middle, and treble. I'll turn the bright switch off. Okay, so now I'm going to add a reverb. Turn that on, and the first one is called Air. Or there's Room. Hall. Church. Plate L, which is a large plate and a small plate. Spring. N star. Deep C. And sweet space. I'm going to go with spring. Doesn't sound like a spring reverb to me. Let's stick with that. And then on Tone Master Pro, I will add a 63 spring reverb. This one's mix is 30, so let's go 3. And the decay is 50. Let's put the tone at 50 as well. Just going to knock up the amp level. It's fairly subtle reverb. And in comparison, that sounds like a hall reverb to me. Doesn't sound like a spring at all. Bring the mix up. Okay, well that's the first difference. So a big difference on the Fender Twin model is on the GP5, if I put the gain to 100, let's put the volume to 100. No matter what I do, it stays completely clean. Now, in contrast, the Tone Master Pro, if I was to put that on the volume on 10, this is how that sounds. And with the bright switch, that's quite a difference. Going back to the GP5. So the only way I'm going to get this to overdrive is to add a boost pedal or an overdrive distortion pedal. So I can either go into the pre, and that is full of like compressors, micro boosts, B boosts. You got the exotic BB preamp pedal model in here. There's an exotic EP booster. It also has some other effects like the auto wah. It has a terrible polyphonic octave effect, and the pitch shifter just awful, not even worth using. In fact, I'm going to show you. It's so bad. Sounds like a church bell. Oh, awful. And if I take away the high, oh man, I don't know what they're thinking putting that in there. It's absolutely horrific. All right, so let's change that. For now, let's try an exotic boost, and that's on 20% gain. Let's crank the gain all the way up. Let's take some settings off. Doesn't sound great, to be honest. Let's try the exotic BB preamp. That's better. Not bad. Let's go in distortion. We'll go with the green overdrive to start. Let's try with 0 gain, 100% volume. It's all right. Bring the tone down. Now let's try with gain and bring that volume back down, but the gain up to about 70. I mean, that's not bad. You've got other pedals in here like the yellow OD. That is the Boss 2 knob overdrive, the the OD1, I think. And then you got the Super Overdrive, which is kind of similar to the Tube Screamer. Let's try it with a different guitar. Let's try again with a humbucker. Sounds good. Now let's put a Super Overdrive in front of this. We'll go to that. And what settings do I have? Oh, 50, 50, 50. So 50, 50, and 50. So this is technically the same overdrive model, but obviously I need to clean the amp back up. So without Let me just check again, the GP-5 without distortion. Okay. Wow, you realize how harsh this sounds once you compare it. Okay, so what I've done is I've pulled the gain on the amp back down to 50% on the amp model for the GP-5 and left everything else the same. This is how it sounds now. That sounds a bit better. If I compare that with the Tone Master Pro. Now obviously that could be to do with the mics as well. Maybe if I just go with a single SM57 for now. Throw it with a bit of ribbon mic. Just the more gain you put on it, the more fizzy it sounds. Let's see, if I was to put the gain up to say 75 on the overdrive pedal and then add an EQ pedal and it only goes up to 4K. 6K. Let's take the 6K all the way off. And then just increase that a little bit. There's a lot less noise with the Tone Master Pro. I totally expected that because it's a very expensive unit, but it also has a much smoother overdrive. But I guess, you know, that's just a case of tweaking. Oh, I've got the treble up on 60. Maybe that's why. Let's bring that down to like 35, boost the middle back up. It's also on bright. Maybe I'll turn that off. It's just different, I guess, and I guess using the different distortion pedals is going to make that difference too, because you've got all these extra ones in here, like a plus distortion, La Charger. Oh, the MI Audio Crunchbox. I have one of those. And it doesn't sound like that. And it does not sound anything like that. I feel really unfair comparing the GP-5 to the Tone Master Pro. They're two different products at the opposite ends of the spectrum. One is a pocket-sized solution that could be used maybe as a backup or as a practice amp. The other is a full-on tour-ready unit that you can do a lot of different things with that you can't do with the GP-5. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take you through a couple of Iron Maiden inspired presets that I've been creating using the GP-5. I'm going to start with a sort of seventh son of a seventh son era tone that I've set up. So the bass preset is using the UK 800 amp, and I have a greenback cab, and I've got some distortion and reverb set up as well. So the bass preset sounds like this. And then I hit a switch and it goes to the lead sound. I've tried to match it to the Tone Master Pro preset that I created for Iron Maiden, but I had to just use EQ to tweak the cab settings, and I had to be very deliberate about which version of the cab that I chose as well. So here's another Iron Maiden preset that I created for Number of the Beast. So this time it uses a flanger as well. And I can go back to the bass preset, which basically takes away that modulation effect. And if I change the cab, you can hear the difference as well. I'm going to cycle through each of the 4x12 cabs now and play the same riff so you can hear the difference. Starting with the UK Green 4x12. Now the Bog 4x12, the Bogner. The Diz 4x12 based on a diesel cab. The EV 4x12 based on the PV6505 4x12 cabinet. Solo 4x12 based on the Soldano cabinet. I really like that one. The Mess 4x12 based on a Mesa Boogie 412 cab. Again, another one of my favorites. Eagle 412 based on an Engel. And finally, the Juice 4x12 based on an orange cabinet. Now that's just the 4x12 cabs. There's obviously 2x12 cabinets in here. There's 1x12. There's a single 1x8 Champ cabinet. And there's also a 2x12 basement cabinet, 4x10 Ampeg cabinet. I guess that's for bass. And then you have slots for user IRs as well. So as you can see, when you're recording from the GP-5, as long as you're prepared to spend a bit of time tweaking the tones and not thinking, oh, it's going to be exactly the same as my Tone Master Pro, or the model's going to be exactly the same as or what I expect a JCM or a Plexi or whatever to sound like, and you just use your ears and tune it to sound however you want it to sound. You will have to change the EQ, and you will have to change the settings on the amp and use it in a way that maybe you wouldn't normally use that amp. But that's okay. Just use your ears, find what sounds good, and go with that. You can load your own IRs too. So if you're not happy with what's in the GP5, just load up your favorite IR and use that instead. And that way you'll get probably the more kind of similar results to what you're expecting. As I was editing this video, I realized if I didn't show the IR loaders in action, I wasn't really doing the GP5 justice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the same IRs in the Tone Master Pro, and I'm going to load them into the GP5. I'm going to use the same amp model, which is just the head. Obviously don't need the cab with the IRs. I'm going to add some reverb to both, and I'll show you how they sound. So jumping into the Pro Control app, once again, I've got the FX Loop 1, that's the GP5, and I've got my IR test preset here as well with the Soldano or SLO 100 amp model, an IR, which is the York Audio Friedman 4x12 cab with a greenback speaker in it, and I'm using Mix 1. Mix 1 is a Shure SM57 and a Royer R121 ribbon mic. Specifically, the SM57 that I'm using is the one that is the 57M, based on a modern Shure SM57. I'm also going to use an IR from the V30 mixes, and that again is the 57 with the R121. And I'll also take one of the blended mixes, which is a V30 with a 57 on it and a greenback with a 121 on it. So I've loaded the Solo 100 Overdrive amp model, and I haven't touched anything. The IR, I've thought I better just leave as is, so I'm not changing anything in here. I'm not changing the speaker impedance curve or the low cut and high cut, which I normally would do. I would set this to the Friedman greenback cab. I would set the low cut to 90 hertz or something, and then the high cut I'd set down to like 5.5 kilohertz. But I'm going to leave it as is because I don't have the same capabilities when I'm editing the Valeton GP5. So for the GP5, I have the amp set as the Solo 100 LD, which is based on the Soldano Overdrive channel on the SLO 100. I have my cab loaded as the Friedman Greenback 1, I've called it in here, but that's the same as this 4x12 M25 Mix 1. And then I have a reverb, which is the whole reverb. I've set to mix of 15 and decay of 37. Then I've got an IR2 preset, which has a reverb on as well. I'll save that. Set to the same 15 and 37. The cab is using the V30 IR, which I will demonstrate shortly. And the amp again is the high gain Solo 100 LD. And then finally I have IR3 set up, which is again the Solo 100 LD. I have a cab set to the user IR of Friedman Blend 1, and I'm going to use that as well in the Tone Master Pro. And the reverb again is set for 15 and 37. Might as well keep it consistent. Save that. And now I'll go back to IR1. So first up, the Tone Master Pro using the IR. And now the GP5. Back to the Tone Master Pro again. Got too much reverb on. It doesn't sound the same as this. So what I'm going to do is change the impedance curve to the Friedman greenback, so it's the same. I'm going to put the low cut up to about 90, and I'll start off with this high cut around 7.5. See how that changes the sound. See, that's changed it quite a lot. Save that. That's still a lot brighter. So you could mess around with the high cut and match it. But I think the idea really when you're doing this is to limit how much of top end frequency, if you want it to sound realistic, like a greenback. Anyway, that's not the point here. We just wanted to hear what the difference was if we left it with the default settings. So that was 20 and 20 like that. But this is using the Freeman greenback instead of the Celestion greenback cab. Now in the Tone Master Pro, the Freeman greenback and the sort of the Marshall greenback are very different sounds. In fact, if I leave it on that and then bring that low cut down to say, I don't know, 12 kilohertz or something, and then the the low cut down to up to 90, the high cut down to about 12. That's still got a lot of top end on it because a greenback speaker only really goes to about 5 kilohertz. So let's save that and then go back to the GP-5. I will say that the GP-5 Solo 100 or Soldano sounds almost identical to the Tone Master Pro model. So this IR actually makes this unit sound a lot better. And I'll move on to the next IR in a moment. So let's move on to the next test. I'm going to change the IR and load in the Friedman 412V30 Mix 1. And again, I will leave this as the British V30, actually, the V30 cabinet. I'll leave these two the same. Save that. And now in the Valeton suite on my phone, you can see I have the Soldano again, and I've just upped the volume to 75, so it matches the volume of the output on my Tone Master Pro. And then the cab is using the V31, the same IR that I'm using in the Tone Master Pro, and the reverb is the same as I had before. I might increase that a little bit because it was a bit quieter, a bit less of an effect than I'd got on the other one. So let's just stop that. All right, so now I am on the V30 version on the Tone Master Pro. Sounds mega. Back to the GP-5, same amp, same IR. That's quite bright in my headphones, and there's no way to tame it. So with this one, that actually sounds like you don't even need to do much to it. Even if I did add the low and high cut, which just takes out a bit of information that it doesn't really need, this will make a difference, the high cut. And that actually makes it sound a bit too muddy. So whereas the IR cabs in Tone Master Pro, I would use these high cuts to be quite aggressive. So I think with the GP-5, you'd probably need to add an EQ after that if it was too much top end, which to me it sounds like it is, or change the settings on the amp, maybe lower the presence or the treble on the amp. But I am going to move on. As I said, that's not what this is about. I'm just comparing IRs. So I'm going to go to my third IR, which is a blend of mics, as I said before, and I'll go with Mix 1, which is the one I have loaded onto the GP-5. So I've gone to IR3 preset on my GP-5. Again, it is the high gain Solo 100 LD. The cab is the Friedman Blend 1. And I'll just up the reverb a little bit. Save that. And we're good to go. So let's listen to the blended mics. That's quite harsh. GP-5. Oh, I need to up the volume. Whoa, that's kind of hurting my ears. If I was to bring it down to a realistic kind of level, if you were using a cab, you would have more around this kind of filtering on it. I mean, you could say the 4x12 V30, but it has a V30 and a greenback. But if you went with that, then you have to change the high cut. It sounds great, but I don't know what doesn't match this one. One thing I didn't mention was this is the Tone Master Pro with my volume up, and I'm sitting right next to my computer. The Tone Master Pro is on my desk. I've got my mic here. You know, I've got lots of stuff here. So any noise you're hearing right now is generated from all this equipment and through my pickups. And I've got a volume up on 10. I'm just muting my strings. Now, if I go to the GP-5, you can't hear anything at the moment because I've got a noise gate on. I'm going to turn that noise gate off right now. Bit of a difference. Noise gate on, noise gate off. That's very noisy. Now remember, the GP-5 is in the effects loop 1 of my Tone Master Pro. So if my cables aren't up to scratch, then they could be generating some noise. It's not going direct to my computer via USB. That would probably clean up the signal a lot as well. But I have noticed there's a lot more noise in general from the high gain amps in the GP-5 compared to the Tone Master Pro, which has virtually no noise in comparison. Okay, back to the demo. Another thing the GP-5 can do that my Tone Master Pro can't do, for instance, is load NAM captures as well. So neural amp modeling files have been preloaded into the app. There's, I think, 50 in here, and then you can load 50 of your own. And you can download those from various websites. All right, so I've loaded up the Foxy 30 JMI file. Everything is set to 50. So gain, volume, bass, middle, and treble, all set to 50, which is halfway. Now I've put the gain to 100. This time I've loaded a snap tone called Bog DST. Let's put the gain up to, I'm going to go 75. Let's scoop the mids a bit. And now I'm going to add a distortion pedal. I'm going to add the green OD with the gain on 0, the volume on 100, and the tone I'm going to leave at 50. Let's add a delay in. There's quite a few delays in here, actually. One with a ring echo, ring mod. What? I can't hear it. You joking? That's better. Kind of weird. So I'm not a massive fan of these NAM captures that are on the GP-5, but there are obviously thousands that you can get from tone3000.com and similar sites like that. So you could go through those and try and find something that does exactly what you want to do. I haven't got the patience, honestly, to go through thousands of files and try them all out and see what they sound like. So I prefer to use what's included usually in a unit and then tweak whatever's available and just find the best sounds that I can using what's available. I've done that with the Fender Tone Master Pro as well. I just go through the available effects and models, obviously, but with the speaker cabs, I try and use the built-in cabs rather than using third-party IRs, just because I want to be able to see if I can find the sounds that I want using what's actually part of this unit, not some third party. So if you prefer to work that way and go through NAMM captures and find the one that works for you, you have a lot of options with this that you don't get with the Fender Tone Master Pro. So, you know, there's pros and cons for each, but I will say with the headphones on, you don't notice as much with the speaker, but with headphones on, you do hear the difference in sound quality from the GP-5. It is not anywhere near the quality, and I wouldn't expect it to be near the quality of the Tone Master Pro, but then it is a fraction of the price. It's not meant to replace these flagship modelers. It's meant to be a budget-friendly device that you can chuck on a small board if you want and use it. You can use it as well as another modeler in the loop like I'm doing today, or you can just use it as a practice device. It's totally up to you, but what I will say is for the money, it is actually quite incredible. I mean, I haven't even gone into the fact that it has a drum machine in it and it has a tuner as well. So it is probably as cheap as a tuner just to use that functionality, which I think that's pretty mind-blowing in itself. But to have all those effects, all those amps, yeah, I'm pretty impressed. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's not a deep dive into the GP-5. Plenty of people have done that. But if you do want me to go into some specific features, please let me know in the comments and I'll do another video. So check out my channel, keep an eye on it, and maybe I'll do some more GP-5 content soon.